Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how to use the terminal for a better calculator on your Mac. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now there are many ways to do calculations on your Mac. For instance, you could use the calculator and then do basic calculations there. You can use Spotlight and do calculations there. And you can use Siri as well. But if you do a lot of calculations, there's another app you should consider, Terminal. So if you run the terminal, you of course have access to the command line interface and you can do all sorts of things. One of the things you can do is run command line apps. One of those is the basic calculator, or BC. Just type BC and return, and now you're inside of a calculator app. And now you can just type things like this and get the result. It has all the basic functions, so you can do things like this, an asterisk for multiplication and a slash for division, and get an answer. You can also use parentheses. So that makes it a little bit better than Calculator and similar to Spotlight. Like with Calculator, you can scroll back to see your previous results. In the Calculator app, that's called Paper Tape. Here it's just something you've got in the terminal window. So you can scroll back and select, copy, see what you've done. The cool thing you can do inside a basic calculator though is you can use the command line tool of up arrow to go back to a previous line. So an up arrow goes here, and now I can move around in it and edit and come up with a different result. I can go back up as many as I want and use the down arrow to go through all the way to the beginning of the list. You can even do multiple calculations at once. So you could do something like this and then a semicolon, and then something like this, maybe another semicolon, and then something like this, and get all three answers at once. And there are variables. So if you're not a programmer, you can just think of variables like the memory function on a calculator, except you can have as many as you want. So for instance, instead of just typing that, you could do a variable name, could just be a letter, and do that. And then if you type the variable name, you'll see the contents. It could be a more complex thing, like you could do a word like that, and then you could type the whole word to get the result. And you can use these variables inside of calculations. So I can take the two variables I created, do that, maybe even add something else, and get the result there. Not only that, but you can also use some standard programming operators. For instance, if I were to use ++ after the number, it would give me the result, and after it gives me the result it would add one. So if I look at the value now, I can see it's increased. If I put the ++ before, it will add 1 first and then give me the result. And I can also do things like this, do a plus equals like that, and now you can see it added 10. So I could do something where I set A equal to a number like this, and then I could do A plus equals, and then maybe a calculation. And then maybe A plus equals and another calculation. And then I can get the result that's stored in there. And you can also use minus equals, you can use multiplication equals, or divided by equals. Now if you do a calculation like that, and you decide you want to store it in a variable later, note it's already stored in a variable called last. So if you want to assign that to a regular variable, you could do something like this, b equals last, and now you've stored it. Or you could have done a plus equals last to add it to an existing variable. If you are a programmer, this is kind of programmable too. For instance, you could do for loops like this. And then put what you want after it, like that. So I get the numbers 0 to 9. But let's say if I wanted to, do a calculation, I could do it like that, run through a whole set. Now the one thing you may notice is that if you do a division like this, you just get a whole number as a result. Where are the decimals? Well, let's quit out of BC, and now let's run BC again, but this time with -L. -L will load the math library, which gives you access to two things. First, it gives you access to decimal places. Now regular integers will add together just fine, but if you do get something that has a remainder like that, then you get decimal places. If you want to set the number of decimal places, use scale. So scale equals 2, for instance, and now I get 2 decimal places. Using -L also gives you access to math functions. So you can do things like sine of 1/2 and get sine, cosine, square root, things like that. Now if you're saying, fine, I like the functionality, but I don't like the look of using BC in Terminal. Well, Terminal actually has a whole bunch of different looks. So if we go into Terminal Settings and we go to Profiles, you can see all these cool looks for terminal windows. When you want to create a terminal window, if you want to use something else, like let's say use this second one here, I can go to New Window and choose that, and I get this look. And then of course I could just run BC, maybe -L like that, and now it looks a little different. But I could also go in and customize these settings and set my own up. So let's go to this one, for instance, and I could click down here and say duplicate the profile. I'll call this one BC because I'm going to use it with BC, and I can customize how I want things to look. Not only that, but if I go to Shell here, I could have it start up by running a command like BC-L. You can see it uses the last command I put there. So now in Terminal I can go New Window and say BC. It not only styles it like this, but runs the BC-L command so I'm ready to do calculations. And then I can even resize this window. Maybe BC might be nicer if it's a long vertical window like this. You of course can customize fonts, the colors, how the cursor looks, all sorts of things. And then you could set that as your default for Terminal if this is all you use Terminal for. Terminal even uses tabs. So if you're doing a bunch of calculations in this Terminal window, I can do Command T for a new tab and it'll open up another tab, but it's the same profile here. So I now have 2 separate instances of BC running. So this one could be performing calculations for one thing and this thing could be performing calculations for something else. Now of course BC goes even deeper than this. If you want to know everything BC can do, type MAN for manual and then BC. And you'll receive a full list of everything that BC can do. And there's even a list of the different special variables. There's a list of the different operators you can use. There's a list of all of the different functions that you can use. So I think if you do calculations a lot, you should give using basic calculator in Terminal a look. It has many advantages over using the calculator app, using Spotlight, or using Siri on your Mac. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.